EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 with a massive week ahead of us as everything started kicking off last night in the NFL world. For those who were tuned in, moves were coming down left and right. Johnny Mac, a big week in front of us, brother. How you doing on this Monday morning?
Yeah, it all kicks off. Welcome. Happy free agency week. I think it was a couple of years ago. It took about 15 minutes for TJ Edwards to go to Chicago. I think DeAndre Swift was about 8 minutes, if I recall correctly, ironically going to Chicago as well. So you've already seen a lot of re-signings around the NFL. The most notable, Myles Garrett, so we can stop talking about that. Myles Garrett 365 is off the air. Birds 365 is back. Myles, the record extension that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Funny how that works. When you ante up the money, all of a sudden nothing else matters. But
create a little bit of leverage, Johnny Mac, and you got yourself a new pretty looking deal.
It's from the standpoint of the Eagles, we've talked about it was never likely going to happen. There were too many hurdles. Even if we got to the markets realistically, draft capital, the Eagles start 32nd. They just don't have the kind of draft capital it would have taken. You know, people were hemming and hawing about giving young players. You see the number, and that's what you would have had to pay them on top of it.
Yeah.
Just wasn't realistic. But boy, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to have Myles Garrett and Jalen Carter.
But, you know, John, what do you think of like the people who are like, oh, he didn't really want to win? I'm like,
I laugh at those.
I have a hard time criticizing somebody for. By the way, he's 30 years old and he just locked up another $123 million of guaranteed money. I mean, it's hard to, people who will say, okay, Myles doesn't want to win. I would like to see what you would do in that position, but I digress. Myles Garrett is gone. John, really the big Eagles news there that I want to hit in this opening segment here. And Johnny Mac, get this posted up for the people because big day today, long day today. I'm sure a bunch of news will come down today. But Dallas Goedert, yesterday it came out that Eagles were hoping to get a 4th-round pick from Josina Anderson. I don't think the Eagles should be shopping Dallas Goedert, but all accounts would point to that they are shopping Dallas Goedert. Your thoughts on the situation? What do you know, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, I haven't got their shopping in, but they've taken calls and they're open to something because they have to work something out contract-wise. I don't necessarily agree with the term shopping, but there's a possibility he won't be here for all the reasons we talked about. The age. I don't like it. I'm with you. The injury history, all that kind of stuff, but they just don't have the heir apparent in-house. And to me, I'm going to do some, unconventional things probably this morning because I think, Howie's in this mode where now he can do no wrong. So the same people that were calling for his head now think he can do no wrong. You can't get all caught up in how well Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean played last year's rookies and say, well, we'll just put a rookie in there. He's going to play at that. I mean, it's not realistic. And it's not only Dallas, and we'll see what happens, but, Milton Williams is expected to leave. Josh Sweat is expected to leave. And by the way, you can make a strong argument the Eagles misevaluated on Josh Sweat from the standpoint of making him take the pay cut. We talked about they don't make, how he can do no wrong. I can make a strong argument that he made a big mistake with Josh Sweat with where the edge rusher market was going. You see, not only Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, they're priced out now.
Right.
Because they made him take a pay cut. Why did he take a pay cut? This is a 27, 28-year-old player that should still be under contract. That's a misevaluation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but is there an element to that the whole league was on that boat with him? Because it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of interest in him last year, and he was willing to take the pay cut, which leads me to believe that maybe the interest wasn't too high for him.
Well, that's fair, but I would argue from that standpoint that the Eagles know him better than anybody else, and everybody gets caught up in sack numbers, and the Eagles should know better.
Yeah,
His pressure numbers actually went up dramatically in that 2023 season from the 22 season when he had a bunch of sacks and probably would have gotten interest because he had a bunch of sacks. You saw this year what it meant to that defense. I mean, we all get bogged down at a quarterback, this disrespect, that disrespect. That fucking defensive front won the Super Bowl. I mean, number one. Now, there's a bunch of guys who played well. I'm not. Then I'm just as bad as the people that boil it down to quarterback. The number one reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl was that defensive front, and two of them are probably walking out the door.
Yeah, a lot of change for a team that just won the Super Bowl. We'll see what ends up happening there. Maybe they misevaluate on Josh Sweat. John, I want to go back to tight end real quick because if they do trade Dallas Goedert, John, I mean, are we looking at a rookie to replace it? Like, do you think Howie has some sort of contingency in the? I have a hard time believing, John, that the news came out yesterday that Eagles are shopping or not shopping. You didn't like that word, but I saw it come out from Josina. They were hoping to get a 4th round pick for Goddard. Maybe they would pull the trigger if they did get that 4th round pick for him. I have a hard time believing Howie Roseman would send Dallas Goedert out of here without some sort of plan lined up in place to bring a new body in. That's not a rookie. I just have a hard time believing that. Do you agree with that? Or
well, I agree with it. He's not going to send him out without a plan. I agree with that. But the plan might be because of the depth at the tight end position in the draft. The plan might be the draft. And that's where I get a little bit uncomfortable from the standpoint of, then you're starting to feel yourself over Quinyon and Cooper and assuming somebody could step in at that type of level at the tight end position. And right. I think the odds are against it. And that's not a criticism of any player. It's just the odds are always against it. That guys are going to hit the ground running like that. Not that it might be a good move in 2-3 years, but to assume, again, the Super Bowl window's wide open. This is a team that's trying to go back to back, and rightfully so. I don't like it, but it's the realistic aspect of, again, when we talk about don't make mistakes. Well, is waiting this long with Dallas Goedert a mistake? You could argue it is, because now you're talking about, all right, you got to adjust the contract. You have the age, you have the injury history. Obviously, you're not going to, a 4th round pick isn't going to be equal. And by the way, I don't think you've seen some of the trades.
Yeah.
Very unlikely they're getting a 4th round, maybe conditional 5 that can go to 4. Maybe something like that. And they talked about future years. Josina talked about future years. That's very Howie-like, because other teams sort of devalue future picks. So he might be able to get a 4th round pick in 2026 or 2027, because teams that the Eagles see that as a market.
NFL sometimes trips me out, John. Like, I get it, but I mean, God, I feel like this guy's a top 5, top 10 tight end, and that's all you're going to get for him is a 4th and 26 or 27. Like, I feel like that's not.
Well, remember what we talk about. Remember, you're also. This is what most people forget. You're also acquiring the contract. Right, or in this case, you're not only acquiring the contract, you have to redo the contract. Mm-hmm. Dallas isn't going somewhere on a 1-year deal, so, and even if he did, it's still pretty expensive. And you'd have to guarantee it and all that kind of stuff. But that's unrealistic for the team.
Just for the rights to the player, basically. And then you got to work out all the other stuff, which is, pain in the ass to begin with. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why you see, well, why did so-and-so only get this and that? He's such a good player. The contract. The contract is always the answer.
Right.
So, for people that say, oh, you should get a 2nd round pick, you're not getting a 2nd round pick. It's just not how it works. And you can make an argument that teams overvalue draft picks, especially, from 2nd round and below. I think they way overvalue day 3 picks, but that's a different argument. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Isaiah Rodgers I thought they'd be able to get Isaiah Rodgers back.
Yeah.
And Now all of a sudden he's got a significant market, which surprises me a little bit. So, yeah, I mean,
I'm
boy,
hearing the guard. I saw the guard market's going to be big too. Maybe Mekhi Becton could be out the door.
I got to tell you, day one, I always thought for old. You probably heard me talk about it. I probably said it with you, Zander. I certainly said it with Jody. For old school boxing fans, I always talked about Sugar Ray Leonard, his ability to just sort of lay around for 2.5 minutes and then have a big flurry in the last 30 seconds and steal rounds. He was famous for it later in his career when he started getting a little bit older. He would just sit there and play defense. And then you see this big flurry and everybody's like, wow, what a round by Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, it very savvy way to do it. I think Howie Roseman, Benjamin Button people, Sugar Ray Leonard. He went wham, bam, bam, bam with Saquon and Zach. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be Josh out the door, Milton out the door, Isaiah out the door. And there's a tentative press conference that I can't talk about scheduled for today. And even that, maybe it's more of a conspiracy, but it's like, hey, look at this.
Right.
And don't ignore. I get some of that coming.
Yeah, well, John, I mean, here's what I'll say. And Eagle fans love to be in Eagle fan land, and that's perfectly fine. But if we are looking at a situation where you lose Milton, you lose Sweat, you lose Becton, you lose Goddard, you lose Isaiah Rodgers, I mean, you're going to have a lot of work to do to try and return to the Super Bowl because teams are going to get better. John, you know how much the NFL changes year to year, and that's a lot of turnover with a lot of good players, a lot of starters that would be needing to be replaced. So I don't think you can do it all in the draft. I mean, I already don't feel good about doing a tight end in the draft, but we'll see what ends up happening. John, a lot of other news or a lot of other things I want to run down just so everybody's updated for those who don't have a chance to consume the NFL news like crazy, like I do. Josh Allen, how about that deal? He signed a massive extension, $330 million with $250 million guaranteed. He had 4 years left on his deal. This added a couple of years, another $200 million in guarantees. I mean, John, are we going to be at 100? How quick are we going to be at $100 million players? I feel like it's 2-3 years away with the rate we're moving. But
yeah, I mean, the projection, because the TV contract's already in place, so the projection is about $20 million a year. The cap keeps going up, so yeah, it's going to keep going up and up and up, and that's why, I talk about Josh Sweat in hindsight. It's like, you get all the good, you got to take the bad. That was a mistake. In my opinion. And you see Harold Landry got a 3-year, $43.5 million deal with the Patriots. The Patriots have a ton of money. We've already talked about Miles setting the non-quarterback new sort of threshold.
Josh Sweat's going to get 20 if Harold Landry got 3 years for 4
I would think so. I would think he's going to crack 20. Maybe the injury comes into it. I don't know. I don't have the medical information, but he's a good stinking player, and he's been a good player for a long time now. And he's only, I don't think he's 28 yet. He just turned 27 in March. I mean, what am I missing here? I don't get it. I don't get that one.
How about the only one yesterday where I thought, NFC team getting better was the Rams. They acquired Devontae Adams. They gave him a husky deal, but I do like the fit because of the quarterback with Stafford. What are your thoughts on that? Because all the moves yesterday, a lot of AFC movement. I mean, how about that deal for DK Metcalf? I think that's an overpay. I'm not going to DK Metcalf.
See, I think Devontae's an overpay.
I think both of them are an overpay.
Although, Devontae Adams at his height was arguably the best receiver in football, but he's not that player. Things move quickly.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of a big – is he better than Cooper Kupp for that offense? I doubt it. Now, Cooper Kupp, a lot of injuries and all that kind of stuff, but if you think about the way Sean McVay does things with all the motion, that ain't Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams was in Green Bay for years making back shoulders. And
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp's the guy who manipulates people and can run every route on the tree. And yeah, I don't like that at all from the Rams. I think that's a downgrade, to be honest, if both players are healthy. DK Metcalf, I like a little bit more than you do. I mean, Pittsburgh was god awful at receiver last year.
Yeah, they were. You said that when we were going into the game with them.
To the point people are like, well, if George Pickens, come on. Now they got a big time player. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback if they stick with Russell Wilson. I can't believe anybody wants Justin Fields. Jody's probably the Jets. I mean, that's just desperation. The Jets, the Steelers. Not that I want Russell Wilson either. Looks like Sam Darnold's going to end up in Seattle. So, he's the one guy you could at least make an argument that, all right, we'll roll the dice here. But I don't even like Sam to Seattle from the perspective of, well, they're losing DK Metcalf now.
Yeah, right.
It's like, what are these teams doing?
And they traded Geno Smith too. I think that came down like last week.
Yeah, they traded. That's why they need a quarterback.
Yeah,
they traded Geno to the Raiders.
Yeah.
So that knocked Arnold out of the Raiders mix, and all of a sudden it looks like he's going to Seattle. Yeah, but he's the only quarterback on the market that you could argue is a legitimate NFL starter. I don't think anybody else even Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed.
I shouldn't say that by that definition. There's not 32 quarterbacks in the world better than Russell Wilson. So I should say legitimate, half decent NFL quarterback.
A guy that can make you a contender.
Yeah, if everything goes right. But I don't think Darnold's going to be nearly as good out. Remember all the playmakers they have in Minnesota, plus the coaching staff.
Yeah, a lot of playmakers, man.
Yeah, so he's not going to have that in Seattle. Although he's going to be in a similar system. They hired Clint Kubiak, so it's all the Kubiak. It's just Shanahan, McVay, blah blah Kubiak system. So he'll be in the same system. But I don't like that. The defensive tackles are getting paid. So Milton, as I think we all knew, is out the door. But those, the Chiefs are able to get Nick Bolton back. Jamie Sherwood got a good deal from the Jets. He's a young player. That's pretty good. Aaron Jones is back with the Vikings. Got a pretty good deal at his age anyway. So those were the big names that kind of happened yesterday. Ernest Jones also got over $10 million in linebacker from the Seahawks. So that was everybody's getting paid. You get to the market, you're getting paid. And 90%, I'm not exaggerating, over 50% of these guys will be cut after 2 years because they're getting overpaid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what you see all the time. Remember when Christian Kirk set the wide receiver market?
Yeah.
It was like the biggest news ever.
Eagles badly wanted Christian Kirk. And they said, all right, it got to a certain number, and the Eagles are pretty dead. And they said, Godspeed. And they were right about that one. Yeah, so I point out when the Eagles are right, but a couple things they were wrong about this year.
Yeah, a couple other things I want to hit on here real quick, Johnny Mac, in this opening, and we're going to run back through everything. We're going to talk about the best free agent targets. I'm going to run through all the free agents one more time here before it kicks off today. The legal tampering period begins today at noon. I know John hates that word, but John, that is what everybody calls it. So that's what I'm calling it because for SEO purposes.
Yeah, but all right, SEO. All right. Because I would argue endlessly with Jody about this too, with Tua. It's not. The NFL never called it that because a bunch of yahoos got together.
Yeah, no, I know that. I'm not saying you're wrong about that, but I'm just saying it is a highly searched word on this day.
Yeah, because knuckleheads, repeat it ad nauseum. But I digress.
No doubt about it. So a couple other things that I wanted to hit on. So that starts at noon today. For those who are looking for content, I'll be live starting at 11:30 a.m. today. So I'm going to go live at 11:30, and then I'll be live all through that legal tampering period. And we'll talk about some of the breaking news that comes in as it happens leading up to the National Football Show at 2:00. John, one other thing in Eagles land, and we're going to talk about a couple other free agent things. Giants quarterback watch. We'll talk about that a little bit. Jalen Hurts at dinner with Michael Jordan. Did you happen to see that? I loved it. I thought that was
I
pretty cool.
I saw the picture. He's always had tremendous respect. He's got a Jordan thing up his locker. He talks about him every once.
Yeah, I think Jordan's his favorite. I think it's his favorite athlete. I mean, he's a big Jordan guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a shoe deal with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no surprise there. But yeah, he has tremendous respect, as most people do in sports. And should, by the way. Yeah, I saw the picture. I don't know when it was, if it was recent.
Yeah, I don't either. I just wanted to bring it up because I did want the people to hear about it. I'll show the picture on the screen real quick. Just to give people, for those who missed it, Michael Jordan and Jalen Hurts chilling. Pretty cool. When you win a Super Bowl and you become a Super Bowl MVP, these are the type of things that you get rewarded with. Dinner with MJ. Pretty cool stuff here. So there's Jalen. You can see him in the back. I don't know who this Italian-looking mafioso who got caught in the middle of the picture, but there's Jalen and Michael Jordan in the back. So pretty cool stuff for QB1. Jalen Hurts hanging out with Michael Jordan there. Johnny Mack, I saw some reports or rumors the Giants might go after Aaron Rodgers. What do you think of that fit? Or who else could they be going after? At some point, an NFC East team is going to have to get better. I was waiting for the Commanders to make a big move, but it might be the Giants to make the first move to try and come back into the land of something.
Well, remember, the Commanders already made some people. I didn't think it was a good move, but they already get brought in Deebo Samuel. So remember.
Wait, you said you think it was a good move?
No, wasn't.
It wasn't, yeah.
But it's a big name, so people get excited.
Yep.
But Giants, I mean, they're a mess. they're a mess. Last year they could have got a quarterback, and they didn't. And every single one of those quarterbacks, I don't know what to think of Michael Penix, but certainly the top two, and Daniel should have been number one, but Caleb Williams has tremendous talent. Now they seem to be putting together an offensive line, so he'll get a chance to do some things. Obviously, the Vikings are willing to walk away from a Pro Bowl quarterback to go forward with J.J. McCarthy. We'll see if that works or not, but he'll have the ability with those playmakers and that coach. He'll certainly have all the things in place to do things. And he's everybody I've talked to scout wise has said he would have been number one this year in this group. And the same thing with Bo Nix, who a lot of people didn't, but proved himself. So you could argue there were 5 quarterbacks in last year's draft better than all the quarterbacks in this year's draft. And they're in a position to get one of them, and they didn't. There's just a bad organization that makes bad decisions time and time again. Doubling down on Daniel Jones, they release him during the season after they doubled down on him. They got a reboot, and for whatever reason, they didn't want to reboot, and so now they're going to go through another lame duck year, and then Shane's going to get fired and Daboll's going to get fired and start it all over again. They're just bad.
They're terrible. It's a joke. It's a joke. The New York Giants stink. They really do. But good stuff there. A whole lot of stuff happened yesterday for those who missed it. I do want to read off real quick the list of moves that came down. And it was a big one, by the way. But here, this is how the NFL world went yesterday for those who watched. 11:51 a.m., Myles Garrett agrees to an extension with the Browns. 2:24 p.m., Nick Bolton re-signs with the Chiefs. Not a biggest fan of him, but he was a solid player. 4:49, Aaron Jones re-signs with the Vikings. Good deal for them. 6:37, Ernest Jones re-signs with the Seahawks. 6:55, Devontae Adams signs with the Rams. 6:57, Harold Landry signs with the Patriots. 7:38, Josh Allen agrees to an extension with the Bills. 7:49, DK Metcalf traded to the Steelers and agrees to an extension. So big news yesterday, a lot of stuff coming down. John, I want to go to that Josh Allen extension. Is Jalen Hurts the next? Because that was a precedent-setting move with a lot of years left on the deal. And you still go back and rework the contract of Josh Allen. I think Jalen Hurts could be next. What do you think?
Well, I mean, It depends what you mean by rework the contract. I think there's, if you look at what happened, Josh Allen was sort of similar to what the Eagles did with Saquon Barkley, and they sort of readjusted the original deal, um, and it just gave them more money.
Right.
So the Eagles have a lot of years left on Jalen Hurts' deal. Now, as far as reworking the contract to get cap room, they'll do that consistently throughout the contract. But now the issue becomes, when the Eagles signed that deal, and really, it runs through 2020. I'm trying to pull it up. 2028. 2028. At the time, it was the highest paid deal. Now he's number 10 average. So you see what versus the Cowboys, for instance, who are having a look what the Cowboys are going to have to pay Micah Parsons now, because they
Yeah,
wait,
they are bad at
they
business.
wait. So it's ridiculous. And the Eagles set the market. They set the market with Saquon, a bunch of other players, Landon Dickerson, we've talked about over the years. They set the market where they're comfortable with, and they were comfortable with that at the time with Jalen Hurts and they know everybody's going to pass him. He was the highest paid player in the history of football for like 3 weeks. And now he's number 10 at the quarterback position. So, you just saw Nicole Lynn is Myles Garrett's agent, Jalen Hurts' agent. You see the deals she's able to get for Myles Garrett. At some point, they're going to come back and say, well, now he's underpaid, guys. So there is that part of it, where you get something done early and it looks pristine from a team standpoint for a couple years, and then all of a sudden the player's underpaid and you got to do something anyway. And I think that could happen, but certainly not soon. I mean, 2028, I don't know, but if Howie wants to put a ball out there like he did with Saquon, look at this, don't look at this, maybe. But I wouldn't think that would be top of the list or anything at this stage.
We'll see what they end up doing with all these things breaking right now in Philadelphia Eagle land. We'll see. I mean, I feel like it defeats the purpose a little bit, John, of them trying to be ahead of the market if they got to go and redo the deal every 2 or 3 years. Like I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of it, but I don't know. Maybe they'll continue to do it because the cap is going to keep exploding, and this is what's going to happen, man. I mean, some of the deals that come down, John, you're just like, holy shit, man. These NFL players.
Yeah, but they're all. Did you see the Saquon numbers?
No, did they come out? Let's get them.
Well, let me pull it up. They're not officially out, but Mike Florio got them, and he's very close with agents, so you can know where it comes from. But I wrote about it on Sports Illustrated, so I'm trying to pull it up and get the exact numbers. Basically, what they did is gave him an extra $3 million for next season and 2026. By fully guaranteeing the 2025 and 26 seasons.
Right.
So they essentially, for all that talk, they essentially gave him $3 million more in each season from the original
guaranteed
deal.
an extra year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And guaranteed the extra year. So for all that talk of, and it's historic, that's the reason why factually it's historic, because he's got the highest average annual value now running back, highest guarantees for running back in history. So that is true, but it's also a 2-year deal. So it's just rebooted. Forget about last season. Now you have 2025 and 2026, and then you have to address it again. So he gets a fully guaranteed $16.5 million in 2025. Most of it paid out in an option bonus. Fully guaranteed $17 million in 2026. Most of it is an option bonus, and the outcomes in 2027. He could earn $16 million in 2027, which would be down from 17. So you can see that ain't happening. Only $2.5 million of that is fully guaranteed. That ain't happening if he continues to play well. So you have to readjust the contract at that point. And then the 2028 salary is 19.2 million. Only 1 million of that is a roster bonus. So essentially nothing is guaranteed. That will never come into play, obviously. So as usual with big Eagles contracts, there are multiple void years too at the end to prorate the salary cap hits. And every year of the contract, you heard about 15 million in incentives. He can earn 1.5 million in incentives with escalators. So if he hits 1.5 million the first year, it goes up. If he hits 1.5 million second, it goes up in the third year. But the third year aren't real. The third and fourth year aren't real. So that 15 million, this is how agents do it. It's meaningless. So as I predicted, and the Eagles, this is 100%. I'm not even leaving the door open. The Eagles never sign a bad contract from the team perspective. That doesn't mean it's not fair.
Right.
But they never, for all these people,
they don't put themselves into a corner.
They don't sign bad contracts. They don't. So for all these, there, because I saw a few people saying, "Oh, that's a bad contract." It's not a bad contract. It's very team friendly. Very team friendly.
If you boil it down, it's basically a 1-year extension with a little bit of a pay raise.
It's basically rebooting the contract with a little bit of a pay raise. Rebooting the original.
It was 2 years. The original deal was 2 years guaranteed, 3-year deal, but 2 years were guaranteed. Exactly. Now he has another 2 years.
So now he still has 2 years guaranteed.
Yeah, right.
With $6 million extra. Right. Is basically what happened.
A little pay raise with another year of guarantees. Good deal there for Saquon Barkley. Good stuff on the numbers there, Johnny Mac. As you predicted on the show, they would come out more team friendly than usual. John, I want to ask you about approach for the Eagles today in free agency. What do you see their approach being? Like last year, they went out, signed a big money contract with Bryce Huff. I don't know if unless they can get a deal done with, maybe Becton or maybe Sweat. I don't know. Maybe Sweat might become more of a priority for. I think that ship has sailed, maybe, but we'll see if they end up trying to go down that road with the way the edge rusher market is exploding. But what do you see the approach for the Eagles today? Is it older veterans that are 1-year deals so you can move on from them and you're trying to, maximize your window? Do you see any long-term deals that are coming? I don't really see any great tight end options. I don't really see any great options to replace Milton Williams or Josh Sweat. And I don't imagine they're going to dole out a big contract on a guard. So what do you see the approach being for the Eagles today? What type of shopping, if any, will they do in free agency?
Yeah, I think the Eagles are playing, and Howie's alluded to this, and he's hinted to it, that, it's not going to be as splashy as it was last year. I think they're going to play the comp pick game, and that means you got to lose more than you bring in. So I think they're going to be very disciplined about who they bring in. And I think you should be focused on guys who are cut because they don't count against the compensatory pick formula. So if you think about, big names, Jonathan Allen, well, the Eagles aren't getting him because he's going to be too expensive, but he wouldn't count. If they did, he wouldn't count against the compensatory pick formula. So from that standpoint, it would make some sense. And that's why I look at Draymond Jones, who's 28. He was cut in Seattle, played the first 3 years of his career with Vic Fangio in Denver. Pretty good pass rusher. They need a defensive tackle. He won't count against that comp pick formula. That guy would make a lot of sense to me for the Eagles. So people like that who have been cut, I would look at shorter term deals. Yes, if you're going to, and certainly not, because if Josh gets over 20 million, which we now expect him to do because of what the edge market is, if Milton gets over 20 million, which we all expect, well, you don't want to sign a $20 million player because that erases the comp pick. So you have to be very disciplined from that standpoint. I think that's what Howie was trying to get across. This is not going to be a traditional offseason. What that meant, hey, we're going to sign the running back and a linebacker, an all-ball linebacker. We're not going to sign our defensive lineman, which is very non-traditional for the Eagles. That's number one. and he mentioned maintenance offseason. This is a maintenance offseason. I was expecting, to be honest, I was expecting more signings before we got to the legal negotiation period. Isaiah Rodgers, perhaps, Mekhi Becton, perhaps. Yeah. But the money's so big, you know, if you get to that point, it's hard to walk away. Those are two players who both would like to be back here. I can state that pretty confidently.
Yeah, but their agents like, dude, you're about to get huge money. We got to wait this out.
Exactly. And you know, it's one thing, and I know Isaiah Rodgers is very grateful to the organization for giving him a chance when everybody said, you know, we'll wait. Well, now they waited, and now he played pretty well when he was forced into the lineup. And evidently, you know, New York, the Giants are interested, the Cowboys are interested, the Panthers, the Bucks, you know, bunch of teams are interested in Isaiah Rodgers. It's one thing to say, I mean, he's from Tampa. They just had a celebration from him.
I saw that, yep.
Yeah, I mean, there are other things, and loyalty is only goes to a certain point. Same thing with Mekhi Becton. I mean, you saw how emotional Mekhi Becton was when the Eagles won the NFC East, never mind the Super Bowl. I mean, the guy was just on a bunch of losers with the Jets and a bad organization and all that kind of crap. And he comes here and Jeff Stoutland and gets him to be a good player. There's tremendous loyalty there. But, you know, if the difference is $8 million versus 11 million. All these people that say, you know, I mean, come on.
Yeah, right.
And remember, I mean, 11 million, look, it's life-changing money for anybody, but after taxes, it's 6 million, maybe. You know, it's a big difference.
It's a massive difference. There's no doubt about it. Johnny Mac, you just brought up a player I wanted to talk about, and a couple other things you said that I want to hit on, but Pete Prisco put out a tweet yesterday. Word around the league is the guard market is going to be outrageous. Good players will be getting great player money. That's the danger of free agency.
Yeah.
I wanted Mekhi Becton back, but that looks like that might not be happening if he gets to the open market. He could get 12, 15, 14, $15 million, John, in the open market. I don't know if it'll be to be guard or to be a tackle, but what do you think on Mekhi Becton with that tweet from Pete Prisco?
Well, I mean, Pete's been around for a long time. That's been free agency since the beginning. Good players get great money, and they get cut 2 years later because they don't live up to it. Not everybody. There's certainly good free agent signings. You've seen them here. You've seen them other places. But generally, you know, teams that have really good players keep them, and you've seen that over the past couple of days. The big push to keep them before they get to the market, and guys who get to the market, they could be good players. I'm not saying it's not possible. You know, there were some great free agents last year, but generally, what Pete said has been true for a very long time. Good players get great money, and that's just the nature of free agency. And the key is to find those guys who were probably misevaluated from their original teams, and their original team should have pushed to keep them. But every year you hear the impending list of free agents, and you think about how it goes. And T. Higgins, all right, he gets franchised, and Trey Smith, and he gets franchised, and you know, guys like that, or aging players with big names. You know, even Ronnie Stanley, you know, Baltimore gets him done. That's why I'm a little bit surprised that I think the Eagles should have made a real effort to get one of the two back between Josh Sweat and Milt Williams. Give me one. Give me one. And I could live with not both, but especially coming off.
If you had to pick one, who'd you pick?
Well, Milton, because he's younger, not as much threat.
I'd probably go Sweat just because I think the edge rusher is so valuable, and I feel like you can get away with a little bit of a regression at the guy next to Jalen Carter. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's so good.
Yeah, I get it, but that's where they dominate. I mean, that's where they dominate.
That's true.
Interior. And,
I'm also
and
I'm also a believer, in Moro Jomo being able to step up next year. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I'd go Sweat just because I feel like you need edge rushers, and I don't really see what they're going to do at edge rusher outside the draft.
Well, Jalix Hunt. I mean,
yeah, I like him.
Is Jalix Hunt? Does he have a higher ceiling than Moro Jomo? I don't know. You can make an argument for both, that they both have pretty high ceilings. But I don't think either of them. I don't think Jalix Hunt is going to be Josh Sweat next year, and I don't think Moro Jomo is going to be Milton Williams. Even Baron Browning got a 2-year deal from Arizona. Just looking at some of the free agents.
Yeah. I saw another one came down. Some Broncos defensive tackle, DJ Jones. He got $26 million fully guaranteed. Yeah.
The kid from Indianapolis, he's gonna watch that name. Odenabo, he's gonna get paid. He's gonna get big money.
I can't wait to see whatever this deal is going to be for Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. I think John, you were right initially. Milton might get $25 million, dude.
He might. I would be stunned. I said if it doesn't hit 20, I would be stunned.
Oh, it's going to hit 20 after.
Oh yeah, I'm very. But I said that day one.
I know you did. You were way ahead of it. Some people were projecting him down at 15, 16 million. That was not happening.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to mind, and that's the thing. I mean, the Eagles tried to get an edge rusher last year, and it didn't work out. One of the few things that didn't work out. Now, Howie's already said they're going to reboot things and try to figure out if they can get something out of Bryce Huff. And maybe that's the way you got to go.
We'll see what ends up happening with all this. Bunch of stuff to talk about, everybody. I'm going to talk about some tight end options. All right. What are we doing at tight end, John? Any players stick out to you? There's not a lot of free agents left. Gesicki got under contract. The Commanders signed Zach Ertz back. I think John Bates also signed back with Commanders. So how many tight ends out there in the open market? Is there a trade option? Is there a draft option you like to replace Goddard? Boy, if Goddard's going on, that would be my least favorite move of the offseason. I don't know how people can tell me getting worse at that position in this period.
Yeah, he's made of glass. You know that, Zander. I got one of those people. By the way, that person, if you're listening, you're muted. The glass people. Yeah, I from the standpoint of, again, if you look at what happened in 2018, the Eagles drafted Dallas Goedert when Zach Ertz was still 28 or 27, somewhere in that range, to be his heir apparent. And by the way, Zach caught 116 balls that season. And, then he caught 88 the next season. So he still got plenty left in the tank. I'm glad he re-signed, but he was damn good with Washington last year and re-signed with Washington. Zach Ertz is a really good player. So for about 2 years, they had the best tight end room maybe in football. Now, maybe Zach did not take it well. Let's be honest. So that maybe that factored into how he's thinking. Like, I can't do that again. But boy, I don't know. Now you're up against Dallas Goedert. Maybe you can't bring him back, and you're looking for as much as possible to get him out the door, and you don't have the heir apparent. I do think if Grant Calcaterra was forced to play, I think he would be better as a receiver than people think, or many people would think. I think he would show up okay. But for this particular team and how they're building this particular team, you got to block. You got to.
Goddard honestly fits this offense pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean, E.J. Jenkins, C.J. Uzama's not going to be back. They signed Nick Muse. They signed Cameron Latu. These are not realistic options to start for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they're not.
So then you have to start talking about free agency or the trade market. A lot of people brought up Michael Mayer from the Raiders, who I think would be a nice fit. But two things about that. Like, I get that the Raiders have Brock Bowers, but all right, why can't they play 12 personnel? Well, I just talked about Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
Why can't you play 2 tight ends? So why would they want to give up a player like that who's still under his rookie deal? So that's part of it. Why is he available? Now, I'm not, the Raiders are a terrible organization, so maybe they're just making terrible decisions. I guess that's a possibility, but I never understood it. So then you start looking at the draft. You're not going to get Tyler Warren for all those Penn State people. Jeff Kerr, by the way, on vacation, so he's not going to be with us today, but we'll catch up with Jeff when he gets back from Florida. And you're talking about the Mason Taylors of the world, the Arroyos of the world from Miami, the kid from Bowling Green who's not really a blocker, but maybe has a history with Scott Leffler, yada, yada, yada. I don't like it. I don't like it for a Super Bowl team who's got Dallas Goedert. And by the way, Dallas Goedert was phenomenal in the postseason.
He led the team in receiving yards, receptions and yards in the play.
Yeah, he's the second. He was the first. He and Devontae would go back and forth each week during the postseason, and I think Devontae ended up on top. Is now the postseason receiving leader in Eagles franchise history. Dallas is number 2. He had been number 1 going into the Super Bowl. Yeah, I don't know. And then you mentioned Gesicki re-signing with Cincinnati. Who's out there? Jawan Johnson? I don't think he re-signed.
What about Evan Engram? People keep telling me Engram. I'm like, the guy can't block. I don't want him.
Yeah, he can't. He's not a blocker. Tyler Conklin's a little bit of a blocker. Yeah. Austin Hooper re-signed. John Bates re-signed. Ingram's out there because he's over 30 and he can't block. He's a good receiver, though.
I just don't feel like we need another receiver. We already had underproduction from Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown last year. Like, what do we need another receiving?
Yeah, I always need more playmaker. That's all anybody.
They just signed Saquon Barkley to another massive deal. They're going to be a running team. We need a guy that can put a body on somebody here.
That's all anybody wants is skill position people. And that's why at some point this weekend I'm going to see how things shape up. But if Howie's listening, Howie, I'm telling you, man, you're letting 2 people walk out the door. That is just your whole philosophy, or has been your whole philosophy. Now, the shiny ball boy, as we said, is Saquon. The Saquon extension to Zach Bond, which I'm all on Zach Bond. I think Zach Bond earned it. I think Saquon earned it. I'm not saying you just didn't have to address Saquon, but it's fine. It's not, as I said, it's not that bad. It's not a bad contract.
Yeah.
But my point is, all right, is Saquon going to have another historic season next year? Maybe.
Unlikely.
Odds are no. Is he going to be good? Yeah, he's going to be real good. Zach Bond. Odds are he's not going to be first team All-Pro, top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Is he going to be good? Yeah, he's going to be good. But you're going to have a little bit of a regression. All of a sudden, I need Moro Jomo to step up for Milton Williams. I need Jalen Hunt to step up for Josh Sweat, and I need Bryce Huff to become a player to make Jalen Hunt better. That's a lot of ifs.
I know, but here's
now they're going to add people. They're going to add people. They're going to add multiple bodies in the draft. But then I get back to, and they might sign a veteran guy who got cut, try to keep their comp picks in order. So they're going to bring in bodies, but then it becomes you got to hit on the bodies you bring in at a high level.
I mean, it's a big part of the reason we won last year, John. Let's be real, is that they did hit on the young guys. I mean,
well, yeah, but again, same thing with Saquon. Are you going to hit on everybody again? Maybe. I don't like those odds.
I don't either. I don't either. I think bringing back Dallas Goedert is a no-brainer. But I don't know. I mean, the rumor comes out Josina Anderson, and I'll read the tweet for everybody so everybody knows what I'm talking about. Let me find the tweet and I'll read it off to you guys. But yeah, I don't know why we would move on from Dallas Goedert at this point. So Josina tweets out, there are league sources who believe the Eagles are holding out hope for at least a 4th-round pick for tight end Dallas Goedert in a potential trade, even if said pick was from later years like 26 or 27. However, a lower pick and more of a salary adjustment is needed for some teams to continue conversations. Either way, Goddard's a Super Bowl champion and one of the nicer people in the league. So I don't know why we would move on from Goddard at this point. Maybe if they need a cap crunch, but I don't know. I don't like this move at all. I think we need to bring him back, especially after you sign Saquon Barkley. And most of your options out there are either rookies or guys who can catch and cannot block. Now, maybe a trade for Michael Mayer is realistic because he can block a little bit. So maybe that makes sense. But I don't know, man. I don't see a good solution to the Dallas.
By the way, the assumption that Michael Mayer is going to play like Dallas Goedert
I agree with that too.
Is bullshit, to be honest. But people can talk themselves into stuff because he was good at Notre Dame. Who cares? Yeah, I don't like it. I've said that. I wrote about it at SI. People can check it out. I tried to cover every angle of it. Doesn't make sense. Now, remember, there's two sides to it, though. From Dallas's standpoint, at his age, he knows this is his last chance to get big money for multiple years. So, to me, the best case scenario for the Eagles is just to guarantee 2025 and then add 2026, similar. But you can't go further than that because of his age. Well, Dallas might want to go further than that. Not might. He definitely wants to go further than that. And other teams might be willing to go further than that. And that's where you come into it takes two parts of the equation thing. And the Eagles don't want to go that far. It's a difficult decision. But from just a pure football standpoint, there's no way they're coming out of losing Dallas Goedert better at tight end. No way in the short term. Zero. Going to go zero. A lot of hundreds and zeros.
I agree. I mean, Dirty Air Checks in my boy. He says, man, I just hard disagree, Zander. Dallas is the most replaceable person on the offense. And I'm sorry, I think some people are looking at this the wrong way. I think those little things that you have on your team are what gets you over the top. I mean, if you go to his postseason this year, he led the team he had 17 catches for 215 yards and a touchdown. He led the team in the 4 playoff games this year. I think that's
replaceable.
I don't think he's replaceable. I'm sorry. I know you're just joking around, but I don't view it like that at all, man. I think
you have to, if people are enamored with big names, and the big names are the quarterback and the running back and the receivers, and even on the Eagles, offensive linemen like Lane and Jordan and Landon. For whatever reason, Dallas hasn't reached that crescendo of belief in people, but around the league, everybody knows this guy's really good. Certainly more valuable than some people on the offense. Mekhi Becton, Cam Jurgens, Jahan Dotson. Those are all starting players. So he's not 1, but he's not 11 on a very good offense. Although, they didn't perform up to what was expected. The defense, I keep pointing out, was better than the offense. And you're letting 2 people walk out the door.
Offense going to have to get better. Losing Dallas Goedert.
Boy, they
Big
were
Marshall. John, you're gonna hate this. Big Marshall says the guy misses multiple games every year. Are we gonna ignore this? We know he misses multiple games. That's part of the evaluation, but the dude still has big production in crunch time. I mean, he just led the team in receiving.
No, I mean, I have no problem with people bringing that up. I mean, part of it is the way he plays. I have a problem with people, the glass people. Like, he's one of the most physical players in football, to the point he hurts himself by being so physical. And he broke his forearm with one of those Kyle Brandt angry runs. What was that? The Green Bay game when who did he carry into the end zone? Pushed 4 times into the end zone. Who was that? I forget what player on Green Bay it was. Everybody was losing their mind. Well, you forget that quickly. I don't get these people. Like, you see his physicality on the field.
The double stick arm, I remember that.
And then these same knuckleheads are oh, this guy's like glass. He'd give you one stiff arm and you'd be glass.
I love that.
I mean, he just stiff-armed that guy into the end zone. Who was that? I
forget who it was. I remember the play. I remember the mic'd up that came out, and Dallas was like,
how many times in the NFL do you see? You see it. You see it with Derrick Henry, who's one of the greatest stiff-arm people of all time. You don't see it often, and you don't see it from receiver tight ends down the field, just destroying people. And to the point he was going back for more. And I've had that discussion because Dallas got hurt and broke his forearm on the same play against the Dallas Cowboys when he was doing the same thing. And he told me, yeah, I'm going to have to stop doing that. And he didn't. He just kept doing it. But when that happens, people love him. It is realistic, though. I have no problem with people pointing out that he has been injured for at least a few games every year. That's legitimate, and that's part of the concern. I have no issue with that. And part of the reason for it is because of the way he does play. And he's cognizant of it. And, as he gets older, maybe he gets more savvy with that kind of stuff. But I don't know. He's a really good player.
And any report, anything you can give us on the inside that would tell you that they are going to trade Dallas? Like, are you sold that you think he's going to be traded, or do you still think he can return? Where's the John McMullen or game?
No, I'm under 55-45, leaning towards he's not going to be back, because I think there's teams out there willing to give him more than 2 years. And if that's the way it shakes, then I'll be criticizing them about that one as well, because they let it go too far. They shouldn't have let it go this far. So for all the people that say the Eagles never make mistakes, they make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And this I will say is one of them, if it goes that direction. If they can get him back for, as I said, guarantee is 2025, add 2026. That would be the best case scenario for the Eagles. Then you draft as heir apparent. Then maybe you have Goddard and Arroyo learning behind him for a year. And that's a plan, and then everything is copacetic. But if you got to throw a second round rookie into the deep end of the pool in a running offense, good luck with that.
No doubt about it. Let me give you guys a quick live read here, and we'll continue on Birds 365. I want to get some of the free agents that maybe Johnny Mack likes today. We'll talk about replacing Mekhi Becton if he's out the door. That guard market's going to be big with the legal tampering or whatever. What's the official name? If you don't want me to call it legal.
Legal negotiation period.
Legal negotiation. So if with the legal negotiation period just 3 hours away and Mekhi Becton still not under contract, somebody's going to be luring, and they're going to have like a $100 bill in a fishing line, just luring Mekhi Becton out of here, with that big contract coming. So we'll see what happens with him, with Milton Williams, and with Josh Sweat here on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We're live all day long. We'll be live again at 11:30. I will on the Zander Krause show. So we'll be watching the free agency news trickle in like crazy on live on the network a little bit later on today. So thanks everybody for being here. Let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Before we continue the show, go use that promo code YouTube 150. Gives you 150% sign up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. They have the fastest pads in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So big thanks to them for sponsoring the 2-hour show today. We appreciate that. And go and check them out. Use that promo code YouTube150. Johnny Mac, replacing Mekhi Becton.
Real quick before you get into that, official now, Saquon Barkley will be having a press conference with reporters about his extension somewhere 11:45 to noonish today, right at the start of free agency. Yeah, I'm a little conspiracy theorist on that one.
I'm with you.
Look at this. Don't look at this.
What's that called? Isn't there a name for that? Like it was a shiny object syndrome or something?
Yeah, shiny bug. Look at the shiny bauble.
Yeah.
And ignore this.
So, by the way, for those who are listening from the start of the show, you see how you get some inside. If you listen to John, you'll get inside tidbits. But you gotta listen. You gotta listen. John mentioned at the start of the show that he would have a press conference, but it wasn't released yet. So Johnny Mac will be heading right down there after the show today. John, that's a little weird.
You get all the reporters
doing deals like crazy, and
you get all the reporters.
Our 2,500-yard running back on the press conference.
You get all the reporters down there, so they're not. We have to go. It's Saquon Barkley, so you got to go. And right as the legal negotiation period starts, hey. Maybe the Eagles are going to unveil a big signing and say that as well. So
maybe they'll put you guys in a frenzy, and you guys will all have to start writing and stuff in the press room down there.
Yeah, I'll say that when I first was clued into this yesterday, I said, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah.
That's the first place I went. It's like, all right, yeah, they're trying to get people focused in on this. But we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see what happens as well. Johnny, man, I think you're right. I 100% am with your line of thinking here, where they have Saquon trotting out. What time did you say it started?
It'll be around somewhere 11:45 to 12.
What else starts at 11:45 to 12 today, everybody? What else? The legal negotiating period in the NFL kicks off at noon today. So the Eagles playing with everybody a little bit. We'll see what ends up happening, what the Birds end up doing today. Saquon Barkley will speak with the media, so we'll keep you posted on that. I will be live on the channel, so we'll react to it a little bit in real time as well. Probably not going to get anything good other than hey, we're happy to be here, happy to be back, happy to sign a big contract, looking forward to another Super Bowl run. Other than that, but Johnny Mac, by the way, real quick, one name you mentioned I wanted to bring up. I forgot to bring it up when you mentioned him. Jonathan Allen, he got cut 1 year, $8 million to replace Milton Williams. Would you do it, or would that not be enough to get it done?
No way. Is that going to be enough to get Jonathan Allen?
No.
But, I would. Yeah, sign me up.
All throughout. That's what I
sign me up for that. Man.
Yeah, I agree.
Sign me up for that. If they can get that done, that guy can still play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
He wouldn't count against the comp pick formula. He's only 30. Boy, I have to look up 30, maybe 31. I don't know. Who said 1 year, $8 million for Jonathan Allen?
No, he was just speculating. It was Jason Cole who was speculating.
I think he's getting more than 1 year, and I think he's going to be well into the teens, 15, 16.
He's 30 and has a pretty extensive injury history. I think that's where the
I still say he can get 2 years, 26 million, somewhere around there.
So you think
I might be lowballing. I might be lowballing that.
Why do I feel like that's not too rich for the Eagles?
Well, it's not going to affect your comp picks, so that could help, but it's probably still a little bit too rich, I would think.
I feel like that'd be a pretty good guy to replace Milton Williams in the near term.
Well, different type. I mean, different type. He's much bigger.
He's much bigger, but he can rush the passer.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty physical, strong. He can definitely rush the passer.
Yeah, he's a very good player. I mean, he's better than Milton. Let's be honest. I wouldn't mind. I think he's out of their price range. That's my guess.
Yeah, 8 million might be low. Again, I got that from Jason Cole, and it's funny because Cilio said that to me after he had Jason Cole on Friday, and I'm like, that sounds low, but I would do that deal if that was the deal. So we'll see what they end up doing there. John, Mekhi Becton, he's going to hit the open market, presumably. What's what it looks like right now, unless a deal comes down in the 2.5 hours that you have left before you're going to be speaking with Saquon Barkley. But what are the Eagles going to do? I mean, if he goes, is it as simple as Tyler Steen, you're up? Do you think they'll try and replace Mekhi Becton in a different way? What do you see happening with the Mekhi Becton and the guard position for the Eagles?
Well, I think it's the same as it was going into last season. It'd be Tyler Steen's job to lose, but he could lose it. Some of our draft guys we talked to last week, Devin Jackson, Ian Cummings, brought up that kid from North Carolina State. You can see that Anthony Belton's going to be here on a top 30 visit. He confirmed that out at the combine. Big, almost not quite as big as Mekhi Becton, but really big, played tackle in North Carolina State for years, but I think would project inside here. So they have contingency set up. It's not going to be, oh, here's the job, Tyler Steen. But, yeah, he would probably start camp like he started camp this year with the starting job. But that doesn't mean he's going to end camp with the starting job. There's going to be competition.
What do you think of that? If he is in there with a running team, obviously Mekhi Becton brought a lot for this team in the running game. I think his specialty was really his big body and how good he was in opening. I mean, John, how many big runs did we see from Saquon Barkley just going right up behind Mekhi Becton? Yeah, I know the one that sticks out to me was that Rams game. But what do you think of Steen going in there? Does that change what this offense can be, or you think he'll be able to prevail well?
I'm not. I haven't seen. I'm not as high on Tyler Steen as some are. I think a lot of people too often default to, well, Stoutland will figure it out.
Yeah,
similar to Vic will figure it out on defense, and he probably will figure it out. But I don't think he played well last season, and he played significant number of snaps because of. Mekhi had a bunch of games. He was banged up. And that's part of the issue as well with him in the evaluation. But if you look at, I'll pull up the PFF rankings. I know it wasn't good. Oh boy, I didn't think it was this bad. 75 of 77. 75 of 77. So you think about the Eagles offensive line, and Cam Jurgens, 14 of 40. Landon Dickerson, 8 of 77. Jordan Mailata, 1 of 81. Lane Johnson, 5 of 81. Mekhi in the 20s. Yeah, he doesn't. No, he hasn't been that guy.
5 out of 77.
Yeah, 75 of 77.
So basically couldn't really get worse.
Really poor pass blocking. Average run blocker. So I haven't seen. That doesn't mean he can't get better. Sometimes guys. I always talk about some guys. Guys need a bunch of snaps. They need to get in a groove. But I mean, and actually, I said, he's better from a grade perspective. But if you want to boil it down, he was 70 of 73 in run block grade. So it wasn't, he was better, but he wasn't great there either. So, I would not give the job to Tyler Steen, to put it mildly. They'll have competition.
which makes more sense as to, as to why we all thought that Beckham would be somebody that would probably return. He's also 25 or 26 years old. So we'll see what ends up happening with him. But I think if he doesn't get a deal in the next 2.5 hours, I think he's gone, because I think someone's going to pay him legitimately $15 million, maybe more than that.
Yeah, he's always been a tough one for me because he's got that knee issue, which he doesn't like to talk about, and he was forced out of a number of games this year, and I think that might concern some people around the league. But anytime you have medical things that could concern teams, that could really affect the value. The value, if you're just talking about pure football. Yeah, I'm with you. If there weren't other issues, he probably deserves more than 15. But I don't think he's getting 15. So the question is
12, 13, maybe 13-3.
Yeah, I think he'll get over 10. So the question is, how high do the Eagles want to go? And they're usually very disciplined, and they have a number, and they're not going to go above that number. But I would think if Mackay's going to be back, he's going to be back to what you said. He's going to be back before noon.
Yeah.
And I think if he gets to the open market, I think it's going to be very difficult to keep him.
No doubt about it. We'll see what ends up happening there with Mekhi Becton. John, now you have Milton Williams. We talked about Moro Jomo, all right, already on the show. But what's the contingency with Milton Williams out the door? That's where I asked you, like, what do you think the free agency approach will be? Like, do you think it will be older guys, 1-year deals, lesser deals, so that they can move on from the contract? Obviously, they have big names coming up for big extensions. Maybe they don't want to lock into a player in free agency. There's not really that many players that are jumping off the page to you in free agency, at least not for me this year. But what do you think they'll do there with replacing Milton Williams? Maybe it is an older guy. If it's not Jonathan Allen, maybe it's somebody else that's a veteran, and you get him on a 1 or 2-year deal for a good number.
Yeah,
nobody. Is it Moro?
Well, I think the Eagles are going to mine the free agency market. I don't think there's going to be splashes. So, Howie is very consistent. Talent gathering season doesn't end. There are going to be guys that are, even after the draft, that are cut because of people, because of things that happened over those 3 days. They're going to add people. Are they going to add people in the draft and free agency? Probably both. Probably both. But it's not going to be big names, I don't think. I don't think, and how he said this, they're not in a position. Maintenance off season. That's the key. Those 2 words. Maintenance off season. And that's why, it's funny. I just saw Jeff McMullen just tweeted, Eagles are having a news conference with running back Saquon Barkley, blah, blah. Novacare around noon, blah, blah. Same time as the NFL's free agency legal tampering period begins. Cross-programming, it would seem. Same thought I had. I go, yeah, I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
So you don't notice this. That's my feel. And
Eagles trying to temper the fans on expecting that Howie can sign everybody and anybody today.
Yeah. It's not going to work, but because you have 50 shows like this. By the way, we were the first, but 50 shows like this. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know what people are expecting, but it seems to be like they're expecting more that they're going to be getting. Is how I would describe it.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there on with the press conference today, and with the legal negotiation period kicking off at noon today. Again, I said I'll be live on the channel, so if you guys are watching now, make sure you tune in at 11:30 a.m. over on JAKIB Sports. I'll lead you all the way up into the National Football Show with Dan Cilio. We'll be live. There'll be a bunch of breaking news coming all around the NFL that we'll talk about. See who gets better in the league. A lot of teams that have a chance to get better. John, looking specifically at our division, outside of the Commanders, it looks like Cowboys and Giants are going to be in the land of nothingness again. I don't know. Maybe the Cowboys could be better because their starting quarterback is going to return. But your thoughts on what they've done so far, and who has the best chance at improvement in 2025?
Well, the Cowboys are going to be better because
Yeah, because they got that.
I mean, they have a quarterback. I mean, for people that he might be overrated, blah blah blah, but he's a good quarterback.
He's better than well, who's the dude who played all the games last year?
Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush. Yeah. I mean, he is a good NFL starting quarterback. Any Eagles fan who thinks different, you're just lying to yourself. So they're going to be much better. So with those two teams, it's not even close. I mean, the Giants are an abject disaster. Now the Cowboys are dumb and they make, and they're going to have to pay the tax on Micah Parsons now, and they constantly do it, and all that kind of stuff still exists. But yeah, I mean, Cooper Rush versus Dak Prescott, not close. So they're the team that's going to be better. It's just a matter of how much better. I don't think they're going to be. I think the NFC East it used to be 2-2, right? For years it was Eagles, Cowboys, and then the dregs were the Commanders and the Giants. Now it's 2-2, really 2-1-1, I would say. Eagles and Commanders, then the Cowboys are okay, and the Giants are the dregs. So now it's 2-1-1.
2-1-1. Cowboys are still down there. And the thing with the Cowboys is I don't think their future looks great like the next 2 or 3 year period. So we'll see what ends up happening with them. John, any targets today, man? Any targets, any names to look for? I looked at the free agency list this morning and I said, boy, this is underwhelming. This is very underwhelming. And some of the best names are already off the market. But any names jump out to you? Anybody you think, okay, that could be a sleeper guy? Like last year, John, on this show, you talked about Bryce Huff before Bryce Huff was an Eagle as a potential option for them to go after. Anybody you look at on the market right now that the Eagles you think will pursue or fits the organization or fits?
Well, I want to, Draymond Jones.
Standpoint.
Draymond Jones, I think, is the most obvious. I mentioned him earlier in the show. He was cut, so he doesn't count against the comp pick formula. He's 28. He's got a history with Vic Fangio. Was successful under Vic Fangio. Is a pure 3 technique like Milton Williams. It's just he's been a quality player. Started a bunch of games, 30.5 sacks as an interior player. Under 30 makes too much sense to me. Unless he's too expensive. And he might be too expensive because these guys are getting paid. Can also look at Raekwon Davis, who got cut because he's got a connection to Vic Fangio. That was Miami, so some of those guys like Vic, some of them don't. But he doesn't make as much sense for me because he's a big guy. He's like Jordan Davis style heights, 3, not quite as big weight wise. And I don't think they've traditionally not carried a back up to Jordan Davis. Maybe they should, but they don't play a nose tackle long enough to make it worthwhile, I guess. So I don't know about him. If you're talking about the 1-year guy, boy, I'd love to get Joey Bosa, but I don't think that's realistic. I'd love to get Jonathan.
Get a lot, right? What do you think Joey Bosa will make?
Yeah, I think he'll get a lot. Jonathan Allen, I think, is unrealistic. Preston Smith. Remember, now he's older, but we're talking about 1 year, who can maybe rush the passer a little bit.
What about Von Miller? Lane put out a tweet. That's why I said it. I mean, he put out like a Von Miller high because they released Von Miller. He's old. He's like 36, I think.
Yeah. Lane's got he's really old. Lane's got a lot of respect for Von Miller.
Yeah,
so it doesn't surprise me. But he's too old for me. I mean, 1-year deal. But that to me would be something maybe later, June, July, right before camp.
Yeah.
You have nothing.
Yeah, you don't need to make that splash on day one free agency.
No. But Lane loves Von Miller. Loves him.
Too old for you, though?
Too old for me, yeah.
Any news on Brandon Graham? We haven't gotten any update on Brandon Graham. Like, is he retiring? Is he not? What's he doing?
Yeah, I think he's going to retire, but, he tore his triceps again in the Super Bowl. So I think.
I mean, if he wasn't retiring, you would think he would make that clear by now, because then a team would try and sign him at this point, or I guess he's just laying low.
I think he's laying low. Well, he's not healthy, so teams are not going to sign him at his age with a torn tricep. So you don't really have to worry about that. But I think, with Kelsey and Cox, he's going to get that treatment where they bring in his family and friends and do the retirement press conference. And that usually takes some logistics because you're bringing people from out of state. And, so I think eventually you're going to get that.
We'll see what happens. A lot of free agency news to happen today. Some people saying they like some names on the market. I haven't been super enamored by anybody, but I mean, there are some sleepers out there that John brought up a couple of them. The Draymond Jones is a good one. I just, I feel like he's going to get more money than he should. It's the land of overpaying. And because we overpaid Huff, I don't know if John or if Howie's going to be in an overpay for an edge rusher mode. You know what I mean? I feel like he's going to rely on Jalix Hunt and probably draft a guy. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening with it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Same thing with defensive tackle. They're going to bring in bodies. It's just a matter of who. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Walter Nolan's the guy I talked about in the draft. Edge rushers. They're gonna get one in the draft, and maybe again a veteran guy later in the process, maybe a 1-year deal type of thing. That's why I brought up Preston Smith. If you think about the old Packers, Zadarius Smith is out there as well. So you got Preston Smith, you got Zadarius Smith, 1-year deal in June. If nothing breaks, that would make some sense. But I think Preston would be more realistic than Zadarius because somebody might sign him a little bit earlier. Yeah, I think Preston Smith, you can wait.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
How old is Preston? What's he, 34, you said?
No, Zadarius is 32. I think Preston is 31 or 30 something in the same.
He's 32 in November, so he'll be 33 next November. But good player. We'll see what they end up doing there. Here's an interesting tweet that just came across my timeline. All right, George Carmy, and he tweets ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Now, I didn't see this report, so I'd have to double check it. But Jeremy Fowler shared that the most interesting thing posed to me this weekend is Washington could double down with a Philly special in both Josh Sweat and Milton Williams in free agency to rebuild their defensive line. Will be interesting to monitor. Now, I don't know.
Well, they got a shitload of money. I've heard Arizona with Milton Williams as well. Jonathan Gannon, that connection is obvious. So I think people look New England as well because they have so much money. People have mentioned them. Minnesota badly needs a defensive tackle, but they're usually really value-based, so they're probably not going to be in the mix. So if you look at Washington is one of the teams that has the money, and it wouldn't surprise me if they get one of them. Two, that'd be kind of tough, but hey, if you got the money, you might as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have a bunch of money, so they're
Josh Harris ain't spending money on the Sixers, so
no,
I'm joking.
And to be
he's
honest,
got to pay a lot of money to some knucklehead. But
to be honest with you, I don't know if he should be spending money on the Sixers based on what the hell Daryl Morey's doing over there. Good God, I don't want to talk about the Sixers right now. But they have the money, John. They're going to make big moves, man. They're going to make big moves to try and get better and overcome the Eagles. I think Debo is just a start for them, but it's not always making big moves, John. It's about making the right moves. And then we'll see if they're able to do that. I think they're going to be good, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately, as I said, you're going to see that these guys that get big money, mark them down. Everybody doesn't, but mark them down because 2 years down the road, they're over 50% to get cut because it's a bunch of, to Pete Prisco's point, bunch of good players getting paid great money.
Yeah. Agreed. No doubt about it. All right, we got a bunch of super chats I want to get on now. Big thanks to everybody who dropped a super chat. If you're listening to the show, don't forget to hit that like button. All right. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'll be live all week long. We'll have tons of content for you guys as the free agency period kicks off here in the NFL. John Forte checks in. What's up, John? Appreciate your super chat, brother. Sorry, it took me a bit to get to it. I didn't realize I had a few waiting. Eagles fans are delusional if you think you're winning back-to-back. You can't lose this many guys, expect same outcome. Maybe another 2 years Super Bowl. John, I'm not going that far. Come on, buddy. Let's see how the offseason goes. I mean,
yeah,
it's
well, one thing there's going to be an overreaction to day one of free agency, and there shouldn't be, good or bad. But yeah, it's way too soon. They haven't lost anybody yet. They are going to lose some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nobody thought they were going to win the Super Bowl this year. So you make a bunch of good decisions. Yeah, they're going to be a contender. So, I mean, if they make a bunch of good decisions, they could make another run.
Yeah.
Why not?
I agree completely. The NFL changes a lot every year, though. That is the thing. So, John, you're not wrong that it's going to be hard to recoup, but to rule it out now, John, at March 10th, I think is a little premature of you. Suplex City checks in. What's up, Suplex? Isn't Eagle killer Sam Howell with Seattle? Is he?
Yes. He was their backup. I believe he's still under contract.
They're not going with him next year, are they?
No, they're gonna sign Sam Darnold.
What do you think of that fit? I know you like Darnold.
Yeah, well, they hired Clint Kubiak, I mentioned earlier in the show. So he's Shanahan, Kubiak, McVay runs that system. So the system fits. But again, they're losing DJ Metcalf. They lost Tyler Lockett. They still have Smith and Jigba. So they got one good receiver. The running back is very good as well. Never in love with the Seattle offensive line. Defensive coach, don't love the situation. But, the Vikings are hell-bent on the rookie quarterback mode with JJ McCarthy, and he's got to play somewhere. So it's as good a place as anywhere. At least they're going to have the same offensive system, but I don't think it's going to work out as well as it did in Minnesota for him. And he probably knows that, but
yeah. Get the money, Sam. Get the money, Sam. Make sure your agent gets the biggest deal.
By the way, I got some trolls saying that I was wrong about Sam Darnold. Now, I was wrong about Sam Darnold. The people, again, the human mind is an interesting thing. I mean,
who said that, on Twitter or in the chat? I'll roast them.
On Twitter. Okay. I mean, what was I wrong about? The guy freaking came out of nowhere to be a unbelievable story. Let's won 14 games, 361 of 545, 4,319 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 102.5 passer rating. Oh, yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I got that one wrong. I mean, what the fuck? What is wrong with you people? If you don't win the whole thing, how many other guys won 14 games with those numbers in the NFL last season?
He had a pretty good year. I mean, come on. He did go pumpkin, though. You got to admit he went pumpkin, but you're not wrong. I agree with you.
I mean, my God. People are just insane with their Ricky Bobby mentality. Yeah, I played. You know why I played poorly? Because they couldn't block the fucking Rams' defensive fronts. Same reason Patrick Mahomes played poorly against the Eagles.
Speaking of the Rams, I think the Rams are going to be one of the top teams in the NFC next year. They had that good defense. They were all young. They're getting better. They added Devontae Adams. I like that move a little bit more than you do, but I think they're going to be a solid team next year. And you always bring up, they were one play away or a couple plays away from beating the Eagles.
I'm telling you, Jordan Mailata sold me on the Rams. He was like, that pass rush is legit.
Yeah. And if Jordan Mailata's telling you it, it's take it to the bank because Jordan Mailata can block anybody. Brian Pumper checks in. Respect Johnny W. Y'all boys roller skating on quicksand. I think you're talking about Johnny Wilson. Pump, the Johnny Wilson train is not going very far. Brian Pumper again. Thank you, Milton, Sweaty, Becton, Rogers, Burks, and DG for their contributions. Enjoying catching L's with bums while we catch W's with Johnny, tight end 1. Wow.
Johnny tight end. Oh, he's moving him to tight end.
He's moving him to tight end to be a blocker.
Yeah, well, a lot of people projected Johnny Wilson to be a tight end coming out of college because he was so oversized to be a receiver. The Eagles were not one of them. They've insisted he's a wide receiver. And there's a big difference between being a good blocking wide receiver and a good blocking tight end. Johnny Wilson, maybe 230 pounds on a good day. I mean, what?
That seems heavy too. He looks smaller than that to me.
I said on a good day.
Yeah.
They list him at 228. And if they move him to tight end, he'll spend the whole year working out and they'll probably get up to about 240. You ain't moving many people inside at his size.
Yeah, I agree with that. Brian Pump, appreciate the super chats, brother. M. Martin checking in. What's up, M. Martin? John, how do you feel about former Eagle Javon Hargrave and Hassan Reddick on one-year deals? And just your general thoughts on Asante Samuel.
Oh, the nostalgia is strong.
I know, man.
Well, they both have to be one-year deals. I don't see any way that Hassan will be back. It was too ugly the way he left. But Javon, there's no ill will. 32, coming off a torn triceps, ironically, which was a big injury for the Eagles. Get me in June if he's still on the market.
We'll see what they end up doing with those guys. I appreciate everybody on the super chats today. Big crowd in here on Birds 365. So big thanks to all of you guys for checking in on the show. The legal negotiating period, commonly referred to as the legal tampering period, kicks off today at noon. And conveniently, the Philadelphia Eagles have a press conference today around noon with Saquon Barkley. Johnny Mac tipped hand on that a little bit earlier in the show, and then now it's official. So John will be down there at the NovaCare Complex, right, John? You'll be heading down to the NovaCare Complex to talk to Saquon.
Yeah, I mean, we have to show up. Even your point, you gave the good synopsis of the press conference before it even happened. So, nothing compelling is going to come from it, but it's Saquon Barkley. So the Eagles understand people have to show up because it's Saquon Barkley. And, if you're focused on Saquon Barkley and the good feels of that, maybe you're not focused on, a flood out the door. Maybe.
Diversion and distraction from the Philadelphia Eagles here today as we might lose Milton Williams, Mekhi Becton, Josh Sweat, Isaiah Rodgers, and the list of names continues. And they got, hey, here's our press conference for the running back that was already under contract anyway. So it's interesting, but look, it's tough to not call that out, but we'll see what ends up happening. You think it will get anything at all?
Maybe they'll sign some players. Maybe they'll sign some players, and maybe it's all for naught. I'm just pointing out that was my first thought when I got heads up that there was going to be a presser for Saquon. And, I'm glad Jeff got the same thought, because sometimes I think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but
No, that's a good one. That's a good thought by you, but I think that's for sure how people. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a common thought process amongst even the fan base today. It's like, all this news is breaking. Why are we watching Saquon talk about the deal he got last week? I don't know.
Yeah, deal he got last week. Well, part of it's timing. Everybody's not around. I know he's getting 100 in Allentown the other day.
The perfect timing, though, is the start.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was the giveaway. It's like 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Don't give me the start of the legal negotiation period. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah,
But I can tell you what I'm going to write about if it shakes out the way I think it's going to shake out.
yeah, no doubt about it. John, one other thing I want to talk about, because I feel like we got to give it some better closure here on Birds 365 is the Myles Garrett thing. I mean, we mentioned it obviously at the start of the show. He got the massive deal to return to Cleveland, but it's the end of Myles 365. What did you think of the deal from the Browns' perspective? I saw some people saying, "Oh, it's a stupid move. They're not ready to win," but like, well, I don't know what you would want them to do. He's a Hall of Fame player. They obviously want to keep him in the room. So I don't know what they would have done differently, but what a great job by Myles Garrett to leverage that situation into a massive contract. But just your final thoughts on that move for Cleveland and Myles Garrett returning back to Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a bunch of people wanted Myles Garrett and they ain't getting Myles Garrett. So now you got to let out the steam in some way. So it's, oh, he doesn't care about winning. He only cares about, the Eagles just ironically proved it, get a good player, sign a good player. Don't give up good players. This ain't a good player. This is a great player.
Yeah.
This is a Hall of Fame player. Cleveland to Canton, as they described it yesterday. That's the way it's going. So when you have arguably the best football player in the world, and he's one of the few people in that conversation, why would you give him up? You figure out the rest of it. Now they haven't been able to do that, and that's on them. But I think people forget the Browns were in the playoffs a few years ago with Joe Flacco playing quarterback. I mean, that's a team that could turn it around really quickly.
They're not that far away, but here's the problem: that the one problem they have is so big and so hard to overcome. Because with a competent quarterback, they can be a solid football team, but they got a massive, fully guaranteed deal with Deshaun Watson. Like, they can't move off that. So what do you do?
Well, you can move off it. You just got to bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah, but it's going to hamstring your assets and how much you can use on replacing them,
But, the Eagles, and it's different because it's much bigger, but the Eagles really set the mode for that as well. What's better? All right, take a step back. 1 year, 2 years. And then you can go moving forward. The first, if you make a mistake, the easiest way to fix it is by admitting it, and going on in a different direction. The problem is when you say that kind of stuff and say, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. No, screw it. You made a mistake, screw it. Now he's injured again. And, yeah, you're going to take a massive dead money hit. You're going to take a massive cap hit, but the cap keeps going up and up and up and up. You just got to make better decisions. They're already going out and getting a quarterback. So they've already moved on from them in their minds.
Right.
You can say, woe is me, but, Jimmy Haslam made the mistake, and it wasn't even Andrew Berry, whoever the hell, I forget who the GM was at the time, but it might have been Andrew.
The Browns are picking what, 2 overall, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If I were them, I would try and move up,
and they're probably going to get Cam Ward.
You don't think the Titans will take him, or will you think they'll trade up?
I don't think the Titans are taking him, but I think they want to trade down.
I think they Will Levis, or you think they just aren't sold on Cam?
I think they're not sold on Cam than they're sold on Will Levis.
I was going to say, Johnny Mac, have you seen something that I haven't? I'm not really sold on Will Levis, but
I mean, the worst thing you can do is take a quarterback because he's the best quarterback in the particular draft. Unless it's Jaden Daniels or
I don't know. I do think I think people are clowning on the quarterback class this year. I do think Cam Ward can be competent. I really do. I don't think he's going to be a trash can in the league. I think
I don't think he's going to be a trash can. I think he's a legitimate first round pick. I think if this were last year, he'd be in the 20s.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you give
Oh,
the right talent around him, I mean, the kid can throw the ball downfield. He's got decent athleticism.
Nix was in the 20s, and he turned into a
Yeah.
solid rookie quarterback and got a big upside. I'm not saying there's not, but there's a value to this. And when you have the number one pick, you got to get value out of that number one pick, whether it's a guy who deserves to be there, like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, or
You think Titans go Carter?
what's that?
You think the Titans go Carter?
Well, I think they want to trade out. If they're forced to stay at number one, they'll probably default to the quarterback, and that'll be a mistake. They should take Carter. I would take Carter at number one if I'm forced, but I don't want to take number one. I want to create value for that pick. And there's no way you can tell me that Cam Ward, if he wasn't a quarterback, would even be in the conversation to be the number one overall pick. Like, you could say that about Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. They belong there. You can't say that about this kid. And if you do, you're lying to yourself, but most of these teams are.
What do you think of that Jackson Dart kid?
I don't like him. I don't think he belongs anywhere near the first round. I wouldn't take him until the third round. And even then I'd be like, that's just
I will say he does have that big arm, like a nice big arm where he can get that ball downfield, but I'm with you. I think they're just gassing him up,
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, to me, he's a career backup. And what do you want to? I think teams should treat quarterbacks the way they treat everybody else, and from an evaluation standpoint. And if a guy's going to be a backup, I'm not taking him with a day 2 pick. Forget about a day 1 pick. 4th round, it would start for me. But I'm hardline. I'm like, so many guys turn. Yeah. Now, if you believe in a guy, go get him. Like Andy Reid did with Patrick Mahomes. Go get him. Now, a lot of people laughed at that. I was one of them. I admit
Well,
it.
the problem, I mean, would you agree that the problem with that philosophy would be that you could miss out on players? Like, if you had that approach, John, in the Jalen Hurts draft, then you wouldn't have drafted Jalen Hurts, who
No, I wouldn't have
turned out
drafted
to be-
Jalen Hurts because
No,
at the time I believed in Carson Wentz, as did the Eagles.
No, but I'm not talking about that. I'm more talking about the philosophy you just laid out, that if you don't think a guy's going to be a starter, then you're waiting to day 3 to draft somebody. Well, not many people thought Jalen was going to be a starter. The Eagles didn't think he was going to be a starter when they drafted him in the 2nd round. But do you lose on too many opportunities with that approach?
I don't think so, but that was such a unique pick from the standpoint of, the Eagles, as I said, already had a quarterback that they believed in. So yeah, I'm in a year like that, I'm not even considering it. But Jeffrey Lurie got involved. They have this Russell Wilson thing. It's a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. Jeffrey Lurie really liked Jalen.
Yeah. And they never got over the Russell Wilson thing, which is ironic because Nick Foles ended up winning a Super Bowl, but he never got over it for whatever reason. But from the standpoint of just quarterback, it's the same thing I talk about. It's so broken when with fans and reporters, and this guy won a Super Bowl, this guy didn't win a Super Bowl, and that bullshit, which is so least common denominator thinking. The when it comes to the draft, it's like, and I in a lot of ways, the NFL should be proud of themselves in the Kenny Pickett year, because nobody was good enough and nobody got picked. But that happens so rarely. And again, if you're talking about Ward and he's going behind Daniels and he's going behind Williams and he's going behind McCarthy and he's going behind Penix and maybe he's going behind Nix, well, what the fuck are you taking him number 1 or number 2 overall for when you got Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter?
What do you like Travis Hunter, by the way? We haven't really talked about him.
I'm not as high on him as some people, but
I'm with you.
physically, only because where are you going to play him? I mean,
Yeah. And
you're
he's
not,
like talking the big game. He wants to play both in the
yeah,
NFL.
that ain't happening.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out, do you want him as a receiver? Do you want him as a cornerback? If you want him as a receiver, do you really want to take a receiver at number 2? Jamar Chase went number 5 overall. Do you really want to take him at number 2? Cornerback, do you really want to take him at number 2?
By the way, I know he's a versatile player, and it's amazing what he does with corner and receiver, but is he as good a receiver as Jamar Chase? I don't think he's even close.
I don't think he's even close.
I think people are enamored by the versatility of the player, but I'd rather you be an incredible receiver than a good receiver and a good corner and do both. I'd rather have one skill set that you're incredible at.
Yeah, I wouldn't even take him, to be honest, in the top 5 because of that. I don't know where he's going to play. Now, I'm not in love with this draft as a whole. If you can't figure that out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I think Carter's far and away number 1 for me. You know, Gentry's a good player, but he's a running back. I'm not taking him. Mason Graham's a good player, but I don't know. Is he a top 5 player? I think Tyler Warren. I think Penn State. I'm like Jeff Kerr. I think he's a top 5 player, but I'm not taking him top 5.
Right.
In this draft, I think he's a top 5 player. I you know, if I'm gonna take a chance on somebody, it's probably Will Campbell, the tackle, or Jalen Walker, the Georgia kid.
Yeah, I like Jalen Walker a lot.
You know, a lot of people are talking about Membu now because of his combine.
Yeah.
You know, maybe him.
Ian Cummings had a great breakdown of him on our show last week.
I'm not in love with this draft, man. I'm not. I don't. You know, I think you're getting.
Bill Carter's a slam dunk at least, because I'm not. By the way, I don't.
I think
he's going to be a little undersized though. It's going to take him a little bit, I think, to be a dominant edge in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be bad, but I think it's going to take.
Well, for this draft, I think he's a slam dunk as number 1.
Fair.
Now, is he going to be Micah Parsons? I don't think so. But I think he's going to be a really good player. And then I like if there's any year to be 32, this is the year, because I think you can get somebody as meaningful as picking at 10. You know, if you pick the right guy. I just don't think there's that much difference. You know, if you get Walter Nolan at 32,
I love that pick.
Now, I find it hard to believe he's going to last there, but a lot of people think he will. You know, who's going to go 10th? You know, I don't know. It's not. Is that going to be that much better? Now, then you start to go a little bit deeper, and if guys like Nolan get pushed up the board, and the kid from Boston College isn't there, then I start thinking about offensive linemen, Banks maybe, Zabel. But, boy, yeah, the top of this draft, I have never been less excited about the top of a draft in my life.
I'm with you. Curtis, is there any Lane Johnson mentees in this draft?
Well, last year was the draft for that.
Yeah,
I know. They didn't get it done.
Came out.
Last year's draft was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it was. It was awesome. A good draft. It was a really good draft last year.
Yeah. I just don't get that feeling from this draft. And maybe I'm wrong, but I was talking about it with Ian. Like, Ian gets excited no matter what.
Yeah.
And I got him to admit, yeah, it's not the last year, but my God, last year you had Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. First of all, I forgot Drake May when I was talking about the quarterbacks. There's 6 better than Cam Ward. 6. I mean, you're telling me he's worthy of going number 1? 12 months prior. You can make an argument he'd still go before Bo Nix. That's it. but Marvin Harrison, Joe Alt is a phenomenal player.
I knew he was going to be a home run.
Malik Neighbors, he's the only good player on the Giants.
Who are the Giants going to take this year?
I know they're a mess. Brock Bowers, historic.
Brock Bowers is crazy good, man.
Just Jared Verse, Quinyon Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr. That draft was incredible. Early returns on that.
Look at the Eagles, even just the Eagles 3 picks: Quinyon, Cooper, and Jalix. I mean, all contributed in a huge way this year. Jalix lesser than the previous 2, but still, I mean, pretty big contributions from a 3rd rounder this year as well from Jalix Hunt, who was supposed to be a developmental guy.
Yeah, I am not high on this draft, man.
Well, that's a little concerning.
Yeah, I almost would like not being in the top 5. Because, I mean, who do you want in the top 5 other than Carter? We talked about Hunter. I just don't. People get enamored with that bullshit, the versatility. Oh, he's going to play. No, he's not. He's not going to play both.
Yeah, he's going to be out of the league in 3 years if he plays both. His body's going to take a beating, man.
You know, I always talk about manufactured touch players. I don't even like manufactured touch players because teams aren't disciplined enough to go back to them. And everybody's got this guy's got one of the things about Saquon, which everybody says I was wrong about Saquon, even though I was right, not going to be relevant in the passing game. How many times did you hear in the offseason, oh, you don't need a slot receiver. Saquon can play in the slot. You ever see Saquon run a damn route from the goddamn slot in your life?
You're right.
Where does this bullshit come from?
You are right about that, John. You said that to people, look, that's a case of not, people don't listen to the full thing that you say, but I get it. I mean, look, they stick to what is Pumper's infatuation with Johnny Wilson? Brian,
I think it's a shtick. I think it's a shtick.
John, this is the worst shtick ever. I mean, at least if you're going to have a shtick on the quarterback, everybody wants to talk about the quarterback. Who the hell wants to talk about Johnny Wilson? Johnny Wilson, one of them ones. Y'all sleep in superstar assassin town. He dropped a flick pass in the Super Bowl, Pumper. Come on, brother. I don't think he's very good, all right? I don't know what your infatuation with him is, though. But, all right, Johnny Mac, 7 minutes left on the show today. I know you got to run right at the top for the highly awaited press conference of Saquon Barkley today. What's going to happen with Dallas Goedert, Johnny Mac? It's the big question of the day. I don't really see a good replacement for him out there right now. Maybe Howie will have something up his sleeve, but what the hell is going to happen with Dallas Goedert today or this week, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards, as I said, about 55-45 that he won't be here. And that's a shame. I don't see the obvious replacement. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, the Eagles, it's a deep tight end draft. When I just ripped the draft, it's a deep tight end draft. And I think, they'll be able to get somebody who can play in the second rounds. And, when I say I don't like the draft, I don't like the top of the draft. Jeremiah called it a starter's draft, and hopefully they can get a starter in the second round. Most likely in a trade back from 32. So if you can get a Mason Taylor or somebody like that, you feel a lot better. But I think people should be prepared in the short term that you're not going to have the same quality play at tight end. Now, maybe 2-3 years down the road, it's something different, and somebody like Taylor turns into a superstar. But I think in the short term, you're taking a step back. But, when you win the Super Bowl, things get different. Elijah Arroyo is another guy from Miami. It's a bunch of tight ends. Fanning from Bowling Green.
A lot of tight ends. I'm just I'm not sold on all of them. Like Fannin, everybody loves talking about Harold Fannin. Like,
Well, he's not a blocker, so you got to play a little bit differently.
It doesn't fit Philly. We don't need another great receiving tight end. We don't need a glorified wide receiver at tight end. We need a traditional tight end that can block and can make the most of 4 or 5 catches a game. That's what we need.
Well, you got to piecemeal it. Maybe that's where Nick Muse comes in. He can block, but he's not going to help you in the passing game.
So you're going to go more 12 personnel for sure.
So, yeah, you got to piecemeal it. You got to go in a little different fashion. Maybe you get Michael Mayer. I still don't know why Las Vegas would want to trade him, but again, dumb organization. Maybe they can't play 12 personnel. I don't know. Johnny Wilson, Brian Pumper, maybe he gains 40 pounds and becomes Mark Bavaro. I don't know. But in the short term, it's probably not going to look great at tight end compared to what it has. And maybe people will start to have some respect for Dallas Goedert and how good of a player he is. But and boy, he had a hell of a postseason run. Did nobody notice that?
Yeah. I know.
What the hell?
I tweeted it out this weekend. I tweeted out, 1, I would give him an extension to keep him here. And 2, he was our biggest receiver in the postseason. So, I mean, I don't know how people forget that, but I certainly don't. All right, Johnny Mac, big news. A lot of stuff happening today in Eagle Land, brother. I would assume we're going to have some sort of football 24/7 later on today at some point. You might have to do it from the NovaCare on the phone. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but I would assume we're going to talk again later on today at some point with the window opening up today with the legal negotiating period, legal tampering period that'll come later on today. But we'll see what the Eagles do. They got they're teasing us with a press conference now, which is a big distraction event, Johnny Mac.
Yeah. Only
we're
negative.
Not buying it on Birds 365. We're too smart for that, Eagles.
Yeah, well, that was my first thought. That's all I'll say. That was my first thought. Shiny bauble. Look at this. Don't pay attention to this. We'll see if it shakes out that way.
Maybe they're playing like 4D chess and they're going to drop like 3 moves while you guys
there
are
we go. That'd be
nice.
Be
like, I got to write about this. I don't want to listen to Saquon anymore, but you can't walk out on Saquon. Maybe they're playing with you guys and they're going to drop a bunch of moves. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. I'd like that, but timing is curious. I will say
timing is curious. Johnny Mac, great stuff today, brother. We'll talk to you, I would assume, later on today. If not later on today, then on a Tuesday morning edition of Birds 365. Well done, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the day.
Yeah, should be a good one. Thanks, John.
Yep.
All right. There's Johnny Mac joining us here on Birds 365. I got a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to run because I will be live. So for those who want Zander time, it's not going to be now. It'll be 11:30 a.m. I'm going live at 11:30. I'll probably lead you all the way up until the National Football Show. The NFL news is going to be coming in like crazy. So I'll keep that up to date with you guys, and we'll react in real time. And if anything happens in Eagle Land, I'll share the link with John. He'll join in, and we'll react to the Eagle news if anything happens there. So that should be pretty good. But I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here today. We had a great crowd in here on Birds 365 today. Don't forget to hit that like button. We're slacking in the like button. I appreciate all of you guys for being here. All right. On Friday, what did I ask you? I said, what do you want to do with Dallas Goedert? I wanted to bring him back. I wanted to extend him. All right. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, at least as it sits right now. Maybe they'll work something out, but who are you? How are you guys feeling about this, the Dallas Goedert thing? Because I'm not going to lie to you. I don't feel good. Some of you felt okay. My guy Dirty Air in the chat was like, look, he can go. We got a great offense. We can maximize it now, get some return on the investment and move on. But I don't feel great about it. I'm not going to lie to you. I would much rather keep Dallas Goedert here in Philly. I would much rather extend him out and keep him here in Philly. You can kick the cap hit down the road. You can probably lower your cap hit. You could give him a little bit of the pay raise he probably wants, and then you can keep your offense intact. By the way, he does fit our offense better than most tight ends on the market. I mean, you need a traditional type of tight end. You need a guy that can put a body on somebody. You need a guy that can catch passes as well. You need all of those things, especially with the re-signing of Saquon Barkley or the extension or the re-upping of Saquon Barkley. I mean, we got guys talking about going get Evan Ingram. Like, we don't need a pass catcher. We don't need a glorified wide receiver, a tight end. Dallas Goedert's skill set fits us perfectly. I don't think you want to do it, man. All right. I don't think you're going to do it that way. So I don't know. I'm not super thrilled about it, but I will take a couple comments and see. David Geldner, what's up, David? Hope you're doing well, brother. Need him? No. Want him back? Definitely. Need him? I think that's fair. You probably don't need him, but David, repeating is harder than getting there, as they say. So like, you're going to get worse and then say you want to go and, repeat. I don't know, man. I don't love that. Boom. Boom. I agree. Boom. I'll say boom to your comment. His blocking is key. Yes, I agree, man. You need a physical guy out there that can put a body on somebody that can help Saquon Barkley in the running game. And I don't know. I don't see it with any other tight end out there. We don't need a pass catcher, you say? Prime candidate, number 89. Prime, your shtick. I liked your other shtick better. The Jalen Hurts shtick was way better than the Johnny Wilson shtick. All right? We don't want to talk about Johnny Wilson, Pumper. Curtis, what's up, Curtis? Hope you're doing well, my guy. Z, I think the Birds don't want to get locked down in an injury-prone guy who's getting older. I would trade him if it makes a difference in keeping some guys but not dropping them for no reason. Well, when people know this is where you stand, Curtis, they're not willing to trade anything for him. So that's where you're going to deplete his value a little bit. Here we go. I just got an NFL notification. Let's see if it's something. Nope, nothing good. Nothing good. All right. Nothing good. We'll see. I believe in the kid. Dude, Brian, you're going to kill my show. Nobody wants to talk about Johnny freaking Wilson. All right? Nobody wants to talk about Johnny Wilson, unfortunately for you. All right? EJ Jenkins. We'll see. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm with Chuck. He says, I don't want to lose Goddard. Ian E says, Johnny Wilson is Cheeks. I think Cheeks is being friendly. I find some Cheeks to be lovely. Cheeks is friendly for Johnny Wilson. All right? Cheeks is friendly for Johnny Wilson. David says, is he injury prone or is he just very, very physical? Agreed. He's very physical. He's very physical. I think. All right. That was funny. I agree, David. I'm with you. I mean, I don't know. Is he injury prone or is he just very physical? He is certainly a physical player. We'll see. Handsome pauses. Handsome pauses every third comment on the show. Handsome. You can't pause every third comment on the show. You're losing the aura of the word pause because you're pausing everything, hustler. All right? Fun fact, Dallas was our number one receiver. I tweeted this out. I tweeted this exact thing out that he led the team in receptions in the postseason. I mean, does that not mean shit to anybody? Francis Kelly, what's up, Francis? Worse in two positions on offense, probably with Becton and Goddard gone. There is enough remaining, but we'll be tougher. I agree. And then you could probably argue as well, Francis, you're getting worse on defense with losing Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. Now you return Zach Bond. You got a lot of young guys who presumably could be better, who could be better next year, which is a big thing. So Quinyon Mitchell probably could improve, could regress a little bit. That's not out of the realm of possibility either. Sophomore slump, people say. You got Cooper DeJean, presumably could get better. I think Jalen Carter is ascending like a rocket. More of a Jomo, I think, could be better. Jordan Davis, I think you're going to need some more of Jordan Davis this year. I need you to play more 3-4 technique. If you can't play 3 technique, we're in trouble. We're in trouble, especially with Milton Williams leaving. So you're going to need more from Jordan Davis this year as well. David says, love you, Zander. Huge fan. David, I love you too, bro. Thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. Boulevard. What's up, Boulevard, my guy? Keep him and draft a young tight end in the late rounds with similar skill set. He is injury prone. I agree. That's exactly my setup, Boulevard. Extend him, kick the can down the road on the cap, keep him in Philly for the next year or two, and get the replacement in the room this year. Right now, we got no contingency. Yeah, Flex, I saw Davis was at the whatever that event was this weekend. It seemed like a bunch of Eagles players were there. I saw Big Dom was there. I saw that. So, maybe he's in better shape, but that doesn't always mean it's going to translate to play on the football field. So we'll see what happens. All right, everybody, I got to run. Keep in mind, Zander time coming up 11:30 a.m. today. We'll have a special edition of the Zander Krause Show for the legal tampering period. If any Eagle news happens, I'll get Johnny Mack in the fold. But, we'll have the Saquon Barkley conference, so I'll listen to that, see if I can listen to that. And we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe I should move Zander time because of that, but I want to react in real time to some of the news that comes out in the NFL world. So I am going to be live. We'll react to it all together. I don't imagine Saquon's going to say anything special. I mean, thanks for the deal. It's been an awesome year. We're going to have another awesome year next year. What else? Well, we're all looking at how we're rebuilding the football team. With all due respect, Saquon, I love you, but we're not really listening for that right now. So an interesting move by the Eagles to have that at the start of legal negotiation period. I think Johnny Mack's right on the number. Distraction. The elites love distraction. Right? The Eagles are distracting us with the press conference, but I will not fall for it. All right, thanks, everybody. Love you all. Hit that like button on the way out, by the way. We still have 650 in here. We should have at least 300 likes. All right, so hit that like button. Appreciate all you guys checking in. See you next time on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.